Actually, every Halloween season, I'm always inspired to make masks. Obviously, for the season, it's filled with masks. So you get monster masks, theater masks, masquerade masks, and all that. So I have this charge to make my own masks. And for a lot of Halloweens, I've created different masks. But for this season, I think I've made the most masks that are well made, at least. And yeah, the first one is actually a mask I've always wanted to make, but haven't been able to properly make it because in the original process of creating masks, I do paper mache. And as cool or as versatile as paper mache is, I couldn't make it into the way that I wanted it for this particular mask to look like. So for the longest time, it was my frustration that I couldn't create it. It's it's a skull mask. There, a lot of characters in different movies wear skull masks, right? But this one was particularly inspired by Harry Potter 4, the Goblet of Fire, and the masks that the Death Eaters wore when they returned to Voldemort. I think it's supposed to be their old masks in the old days, because on the fifth movie they changed their masks to represent their new days or whatever. But I preferred their old mask because it's like it's like an actual skull. It's like a mask they made out of their victims. Because of course Death Eaters are not afraid to kill people, and well, maybe they're also sick enough to remove the victim's face and then cut off their skull, the front of their skull, and put it on their own faces. That sounds like more insane time era, because in their second version of their masks, it's more like a metal. It's like the Man in the Iron Mask thing, and it looks really cool. I actually made that in another Halloween, or in a different Halloween season, but I've always wanted to make this version in particular. There we go. I'm gonna put it on. You might notice that it's reflecting light in the eye holes. That's because I intentionally made eye slots, patent pending, for glass lenses. These lenses are from my old glasses, so they're a bit weaker, but at least I'm not completely blind when I wear the mask. I had to make this mask be able to accommodate my nearsightedness. Oh, that's terrible. To accommodate my nearsightedness, because my greatest frustration when it comes to wearing masks is that I have to take off my glasses, and then when I put on my mask, I'm technically blind. So when I put on masks, it's just for photo shoots. So and after I take my picture, I have to put on my glasses over the mask, and sometimes it's an awkward fit, and of course it's the glasses would be lopsided on my face, and it doesn't have the same effect anymore. This is the very first mask that I was able to finish before I went on to other masks, and yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. Yeah, let me just put it on. There. It looks pretty cool. Although my lenses slot is a bit flawed, or needs a bit of work, because the lenses actually press too close to my eyes, and I have pretty long eyelashes, so that can get pretty uncomfortable because it presses against my eyelashes, and it doesn't feel wet. There we go. It doesn't feel really good against my eyes, but I like the fact that I can actually see through the eye holes and not have to wear eyeglasses over on top of the mask. So there we go. Here is my Death Eater mask. There. You might notice this scar is obviously in reference to where I got it from, Harry Potter, of course. Ta-da. Okay. So here's my skull mask. The second mask I wore was the one I posted on Facebook, because I wore it in the Halloween event for where I work, and it looks like this. There we go. Yeah, if you think like, oh, it's kind of Dia de Muertos style, it is, because the theme of the Halloween at work was Dia de Muertos, the Mexican Day of the Dead. This was the one I made, and what I love about this mask is that I made it kind of last minute. I made it the day before. I started making it the day before the event, and the event starts the next day at 5 o'clock, and I had to be ready. And I had to be ready with this mask before then, because of course I still had to travel. I still had to go to work and then put it on, and it wasn't just the mask. I had to put contact lenses on. Yeah, I still was able to rock it. The reason I made this at the very last minute was because I had an original plan for a mask. It wasn't supposed to be this one. So I bought a mask base, the white ones, the paper mache white ones you see everywhere. Use my felt tip pens and then draw designs all over it, because with felt tip pens you get finer details, you can experiment with color and all that. And I did that for three other Dia de Muertos mask, one for my mom, which she used for her own work event, and two spare ones for people at the office who weren't able to make their own masks, or who couldn't get their own masks, just in case. So I made three spare masks using felt tip pens and the store-bought masks. I was supposed to make mine that way as well. However, I wanted to make it a bit different. I wanted it to not just be the mask and then drawn on. I have a sketch for it, so just so I wouldn't forget when I finally got home and be able to make it. Anyway, here is another picture of how it ended up looking. Yeah. So I'm not sure if it was my penknife that failed me, or it was my own skill set, or maybe I was just particularly exhausted that day. But yeah, I didn't. The mask didn't turn out the way it should be. At least it failed pretty early on. It didn't fail like when I was almost finished with it. But yeah, of course, the failure of it still disappointed me very much. And I actually took a couple of days, or at least a day, to recover from the disappointment. And I'm not sure why that struck me harder than most of my failed craft, because I could usually get over, okay, I failed this one, either I get over it or I spin it. And for most of my art, I spin it. Okay, this wasn't able to become what I wanted it to become, so I'll just make it into something else. And that's part of what I enjoy about how I make my things, because I'm able to adjust. However, for this one, I couldn't recover from it. I couldn't easily recover from it. And then by the time I was able to recover from it, by the time I was able to come up with a plan, it was already the day before before the event. And anyway, this was the one that popped into my head, and the reason why I was able to easily finish it is because if you see here at the back part, it has like marker lines, and it doesn't show at the front. It's because this is a different mask in the past. It was a mask I already made, but it wasn't a mask that was supposed to be worn. It was just a mask that I quickly made, just so you could decorate it, you could put it on the walls. It used to be a part of three masks intended for decorations. They didn't have eye holes, they didn't have nose holes, they didn't have holes for strings, because all they were supposed to be is wall decorations. And I took one of them, and then I padded it up with more layers, so it would be harder, so it wouldn't be flimsy. And yeah, I used that as a base. I added a couple of layers of newspaper and a layer of tissue paper, and then I had to let it dry. And the morning of the Halloween event, I quickly painted over it. And then luckily the event was in the afternoon, and my work started after the event, so I didn't have to be at work before the event, and I had time to paint over it. And luckily the design I had in my head was pretty simplistic. It was far more simple than my original plan for it. And I think in hindsight, I'm glad that I failed my original design, because this one looks really good. This one looks way better than my original plan, because as you can see, the brush strokes are pretty obvious on it, and I like that effect. It's like it's more what do you call it? It resembles more of the designs you see on the Dia de Muertos parade, or the way the celebration of Dia de Muertos in Mexico, which I really want to visit and experience the way they honor their dead. And because the other mask that I made had too clean lines. I mean, it's colorful, and that's most of Dia de Muertos celebrations are colorful, but I like how plain this one is. The simplicity of it is much more attractive to me than the other masks. I mean, I'm pretty proud of the other masks I made, of course, but this one, it's just it has a more special place in my heart. There. So that's my second mask for this season, and yeah. My third mask, I'm actually very proud of it. There. There. So if it, you might say, it kind of looks familiar. It should. And one, it might be because it looks like Batman's mask with just horns. It's not. Or two, it might be because you're a Panic at the Disco fan, or you've heard or you've seen the video Emperor's New Clothes by Panic at the Disco. That's where I got the design from. It's actually Brendan Urie's costume in the video of Emperor's New Clothes, which I just actually saw this month. Yeah, last month, or this year at least. So I know it's been out for a long time, but it's the first time I've seen it this year, and I was so inspired by the idea of it, the idea of the song, the idea of the costume. It was just so inspiring, and I thought, why did I stop listening to Panic at the Disco? Because in high school, I used to listen to them all the time, Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy, and My Chemical Romance. And eventually, I kind of just stopped listening to their music, or at least minimized the consumption of their music. And then I was just going through YouTube, and then I found it. I found Emperor's New Clothes, and then I saw it, and like, holy crap! Why have I not seen this before now? And there, so I was with the availability of a medium that I could literally transform into anything. I was motivated to make the face that Brendan Urie make a mask out of Brendan Urie's costume, the Emperor or the Demon, whatever his official name is. But yeah, so I tried to replicate the detail work as much as possible. So the brow, the beard detail, and the details on the horns. There. Obviously, it's not going to look exactly like a Brendan Urie because his face is a bit different and my face has a different bone structure. And of course, this was intended as a mask. It's not intended as a makeup or prosthetic. It's intended to look like and be or function as a mask. And it's pretty sturdy. It's pretty hard wearing this mask and going through doorways. Because, yeah, you have to watch your horns. I wonder how demons do it all the time. Or maybe they have bigger doorways. Anyway, so I made this because one, it inspired, the music video was so inspiring, and two, it's kind of like an apology. An apology to the music, to the rock bands I've abandoned, or I have forgotten, or I have not listened to in the longest time. And yeah, this is a testament of my contrition, of me being contrite. And so far, yeah, I've been listening to my old rock bands a lot recently, ever since I realized that I've been missing out, especially since when I've heard Emperor's New Clothes. So yeah, those are my craft projects. I have one more project to show you. I've also posted them on Facebook. It's actually my it's not craft this time, it's illustrations. So you've obviously heard of Inktober, It's been around for a couple of years now, for maybe even longer than that. And I've always wanted to join Inktober. For some reason, I haven't, considering that I'm always creatively charged on October. But this year, I finally was able to join it. And yeah, I've already posted like individual pictures of these per day, and I didn't join it on the 1st of October itself, because I was so enamored by making masks out of cold porcelain that I kind of focused on that for a bit. I started doing Inktober on the 12th or 13th day, and I had to do backtracking, so I had to do the first 12 days really quickly, just so I could catch up on the 30 by the 13th day. There. And yeah, I could have just, I could have just started from day 13 and then moved on from there, but I decided no, this is Inktober, I have to do all 31 illustrations even though I'm late. And there are still days that I post late, like I get home at midnight. I was able to do the drawing on the day itself, but since I get home late, I can't post it online on the actual day. But yeah, I try to be as punctual as possible when posting the Inktober pictures. But yes, and I was able to complete it. I was able to complete it on the day. And I'm actually thinking of doing a separate video talking about all my Inktober illustrations, because there's a little bit of a story behind why I drew what I drew. And if you're interested, you can let me know in the comments. If you've gone this far into the video, please let me know by commenting if you're interested in me talking about my Inktober illustrations. So yeah, as I've said in the beginning, October has always been very inspiring for me, because of its Halloween theme, or because everyone's just creating something, and all over the shops there are things that would inspire me to create something of my own instead of buying them. And I'm pretty glad that for this October I was able to discover a medium that I was able to easily manipulate into whatever I wanted it to be. And I hope that I could keep creating, not just on October. I started a lot of projects on the month of October that are still ongoing. So there are actually there's one more mask that I'm working on, but I ran out of materials before the month ended, and I had to prioritize other projects as well. But yeah, there's one more mask on the way. There are other things that I started on October, and I hope I'll be able to finish within the year. So I might post videos about them in the future, and hopefully I'll be able to do it like individually per project, not this whole very long video where there's a quick description for each item. Yeah, and if you're interested in watching that, you're very much welcome to subscribe or follow me, and so that you'll know when the next video about my art things will be coming up. And yeah, before I end this video, I'm planning to make one more. It's not gonna be an art video. It's a book video this time. It's a book review. Because besides making art last October, I also decided to challenge myself to finish like 5 books, several books that I've had in my to be read pile for a long time. And I really liked this challenge to myself because they were Filipiniana books. They were books made by Filipinos, published in the Philippines, and I haven't been able to get around to some of them in a long time, mostly because art, procrastination, and other things. I was able to finish that challenge on the 27th, I think, before the month ended, and I'm pretty happy I did the challenge, but I have mixed feelings about the different books, and I would like to talk about it. And if you're interested in that, look forward to my next video. And but for now, thanks for sticking with me until the very end. This is a very long video. I do tend to ramble because I don't have a script. But yeah, thank you for sticking with me until the very end. But for now, that's the end of my video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.